on, right? They have a sense of it. They get it by your actions. Maybe you're not spending as much on those. You're not buying steak for the Friday barbecues. You're buying hot dogs and hamburgers.
Yeah, right.
Or you're not doing them at all. And I would say, talking about that, that's a good thing to cut out before you start laying people off. Of the perks is to tell people, look, things are tight. We're going to cut back lunch. We're not going to do lunches, or we're going to do them once a month instead of every Friday, like used to do, and or we're going to pull back on here, because those messages you're sending to people are that the people are important, and we're going to cut back on these other things, right? Yes. I think that's really worth doing. And I think either before you start layoffs and then after you do it, you have to go talk to the people and say, look, we're going to have to, make some adjustments here, and I'll be talking to you and, each of you. And then go ahead.
No, I was going to say I would, and I've done this. It is super risky. You have to really talk about practicing, man. Like I took a week of every day going through my notes and my scripts and my talking points before I did what I'm about to tell you. I knew I needed to lay someone off. I didn't know which person it needed to be. It was a strictly financial decision, right? It was like, okay, we can't afford to keep all the people that we have, but if I slice one out, then everything sort of just fits into place, and we can make this work. And so I was like, all right, I have a tough decision to make. How do I know which one? And my gut kind of knew, but it wasn't on paper. It was not obvious. And so I had made my decision, and then I had a conversation with the people actually that were going to stay, and made sure that nothing they said set up any warning signs for me that, like, wait a minute, this person might be leaving soon. They like, right. Do they have something going on? Is it clear that they're looking at other things? And that's really hard to ascertain. And it's going to be very specific to your business, to try and suss out whether someone is actively seeking a different job. Right. And so, because they're not going to tell you, nor should they, in most cases. But having those conversations with people and just saying, hey, I'd like to talk about the long-term plan here, and just having that conversation, like, here's what you're working on here. Here's what I see you working on next. What do you think about that? And looking for buy-in on those things and looking for engagement on those things is really the key to answering that question. Okay, like I'm not about to cut one and then have another leave right away. Yes. Right. I mean, that might happen if they don't like the way you cut the one. I mean, right. Like there's no guarantees of any of this, but trying to sort of ferret out whether someone else is also planning on leaving, because that would then, in my situation, would have solved my problem for me, if you will. But and so having those conversations with the people that are going to stay does two things. Number one, it helps make sure that you aren't caught behind the eight ball, and then number two, it makes it so that the follow-up conversation of, hey, this is why I came to you last week about this. We've let so-and-so go. I wanted to talk to you about that. All the things that we talked about last week are very important to the company and to me. I want to make sure we give you what you need to get those done. And quite frankly, that's part of why we let so-and-so go, because now we have the resources to actually make sure you can do the things that you need to do.
Smart.
Right. And ensuring people that you have made this decision very carefully and once. That's that's what everybody that remains needs to know, is that this is a one-time thing. It's not, well, these are the brake lights, and then in 6 weeks, watch the crash happen, right? You want to make sure that the brake lights and the crash happen all at once, and that everybody that stays is on the other side of that. And you need to be able to communicate that in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways is by having those conversations up front, so that in retrospect, your team can see that you put a lot of thought into this and that you are confident that the business can move forward as it now is, now that we've let that person go.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
So, I hope we've discussed some, good tips for you today. It's an unpleasant thing to have to do, but sometimes it's a reality. And my key takeaways are, have empathy, but be firm, be prepared, practice this stuff. Very important. You want to be able to control the conversation and not let the person control the conversation.
Yep.
And help when you can. If there's creative things you can do, help them out. If you can do the severance, obviously that's what's very, very common. But I had a guy one time that really the most important thing he wanted was his chair. And I was like, hey man, yes, take your chair, please. Happy to have
you can be human in these interactions for sure.
Be human. Yeah, be human.
So, yeah.
But let's hope nobody has to do it. But if you do,
we're all going to have to do it.
It's
just how it goes.
At some point. Yeah.
Yep.
But share your tips, feedback at businessshow.co, and let us know what we missed, what you think we got right or wrong, and open up a dialogue.